and welcome! Today we are taking a full look at the Nerf rival challenger MXXIV-1200. Now I've been pretty excited to get my hands on the challenger. This is the first electronic rifle blaster that we've had since the 2020 Charger. Also, with the way the challenger is set up, this is pretty clearly a rival Stryfe. The closest thing previously was the Hera, but not only did it have a fixed stock, but the magazine also fed through the grip. This is much closer to the Stryfe. Now this blaster is shipping with 18 AccuRival rounds. It is for ages 14 and up. Overall, the box looks pretty good. If we look to the side, we do see that they are showing off the Nerf rival Mirage, which hopefully will be available pretty soon. Without further ado, let's open the challenger up and check it out. Included in the box is of course the challenger itself, the curved 12-round magazine, 18 Nerf rival Accu rounds, and of course the instructions. Now the Challenger is battery operated, but unfortunately does not include a rechargeable battery. Instead, the blaster requires 8 AA's. Now that is very unusual for Nerf. Nerf usually uses 4 batteries, which comes out to 6 volts, and in some cases will use 6, which comes out to 9 volts. But the only blaster that I can think of that takes 8 batteries is the Dart Zone Pro Mark III. Now that doesn't necessarily mean this blaster is going to hit harder than a standard rival blaster, but what that'll probably mean for the usage of this blaster is that your follow-up shots are not going to bog down as much. The battery tray is located on the left side of the blaster. Now, with those batteries in there, it doesn't seem like it's as loud as a lot of other rival blasters, especially when compared to things like the Perseus and Prometheus, which take a rechargeable battery. That also applies to rev up time. This doesn't seem to rev up significantly faster than the other rival blasters. Now, going over the blaster, we have a ton of sling mounts. We have 1, 2, 3, and I would say technically 4, 5, and 6. So you have plenty of options with this blaster. As far as tactical rails go, I am very happy that there are 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now these are of course rival rails. We don't have a ton of attachments for them, but because this is the same rail system used on the Nerf Pro blasters, such as the Stryfe X or Gelfire line, we could definitely see more attachments in the near future. On the left side of the blaster, we do have our jam door. When you open up the jam door, you cannot rev the blaster. It's a fairly large opening, and I'm pretty happy with it. Now right here on the right side of the blaster, we do have our safety. In the locked or safe position, you cannot rev the blaster, but in the fire position, the rev trigger becomes free. Of course, right here we do have our magazine release. It is very easy to strike, and if your magazine is loaded, a round will fall out every time you pull the magazine out. This was also an attribute that the Hera and Zeus had. But yeah, this magazine release is pretty solid. It is a little bit far if you're going to hit it with your finger, but it is doable, at least for me. Now we have to talk about what is up front. Of course, in my Nerf news video, and I'm sure plenty of other places, one of the largest points of speculation towards these new AccuRival blasters was this barrel lug looking thing on the front. Now I would say it's about 20% larger than a standard N-Strike barrel lug, but it looks almost exactly alike. And if someone were to 3D print a barrel that matched this size, the grooves actually look like they would accept a barrel just fine. The one on the right is going down, and the one on the left is going up, just like a standard N-Strike barrel. But on the box, it does not point this out as a barrel attachment point, so at the moment they might be treating it as a sort of aesthetic choice, but I would not be surprised if we ended up getting rival barrels. As far as the overall ergonomics, I do really like this back grip, definitely plenty large for a big hand, and I thought I would really like this front section, but it's just a little bit too narrow. There's also a lot of hollow points, and with these 3 rails right here, a lot of grooves and kind of uncomfortable bits that poke into your hand. But still, this blaster is very one-hand wieldable, and for a lot of people, that might be the way to do it. Now, considering we had all those magazine compatibility issues with the Pathfinder, I'm sure a lot of you are pretty worried about this blaster's magazine compatibility. Now, I think this should work just fine with all the newer magazines, such as the one from the Nerf rival Finisher, the Pathfinders, as well as the new upcoming Mirage magazine. But what about the older and standard rival mags? Well, let's give it a test. This is the magazine from the 2017 Nerf rival Hera. So far, so good. So this is pretty unfortunate. I think it is having some issues. Now, as you can see, when it is locked into the blaster, there is still a little bit of wiggle. I think when the magazine is lower, it does not feed very reliably. So I'm going to pull the magazine all the way down, and let's see what happens. It'll fire the first couple of shots, but nothing beyond that. Now let's see what happens if we push the magazine upwards and attempt to fire the rest off. We still have 3 in the magazine, and that is because it came loose and jostled itself down. So if you want it to feed 100% reliably with the older style magazines, you're going to need to push it into the blaster. That's really unfortunate, and it seems to basically be the same problem that was present on the Pathfinder, so that definitely gets a thumbs down from me. Very annoying. Now we'll try it with its included magazine. I actually did have a little hiccup going through. Let me try that again to make sure that's not a reoccurring issue. Okay, we'll put another 12 through. And sure enough, that time it fed perfectly. But it is very unfortunate that it will not work with the original standard rival mags. A huge misstep on Hasbro's part, and something that really needs to be addressed. So now that we've got a pretty good look at the Nerf Rival Challenger, let's take this thing outside, put it over the chronograph, and see how it performs. Here we are with the Nerf Rival Challenger. We will be firing the included AccuRival rounds. 91, 90, duplicate 90, 87, 89, duplicate 89, and duplicate 289. I think I did see in the online description that this blaster was claiming 90 feet per second, and it does seem to reach those numbers. It's also pretty consistent, which being an AccuRival blaster is definitely important. Now let's fire some shots downrange. So the consistency seems to be pretty good. The hop up is working well, but when I emptied the magazine very quickly, I actually did see some bog down, which I definitely expected less of with 8 batteries. Let's go take a look to see just how much drop off we were getting. So right here is what I think was our furthest shot. And after firing in quick succession, we had one go here, and then there, over there, and eventually we dropped off to right here. So from what it looks like to me, we had about a 17-foot drop off when we spammed shots, which in some cases might not matter very much, but in others might be crippling to your ability to hit a target. So what are my final thoughts on the Nerf Rival Challenger? Overall, I think it's a pretty solid pickup for $35, and I definitely like this one a lot more than I liked the Charger. I think ergonomically it's pretty good, I think aesthetically it is great, and I really appreciate all the sling mounts and how they brought back the Rival Rail, or should I say the Rival Rail on Rival blasters. Because of course we've been getting them on the Gelfire blasters and the Hyper blasters and the Nerf Pro blasters, but this and the Mirage will actually be the first AccuRival blasters to feature any kind of tactical rail, which is kind of crazy, but I'm happy to have them back. This barrel lug thing is pretty mysterious, and I'm definitely curious to see where it goes, and if it doesn't go anywhere, I'm sure someone will 3D print a barrel to go on here. This is, for all intents and purposes, a Rival Stryfe, but I'm pretty disappointed that they didn't get the compatibility right. After they completely screwed this up with the Pathfinder, I thought with all the complaining that mistake would not happen again. But it's like they're not even testing with the old magazines. I don't understand how they can make the same issue twice. Especially when in the past, when we had things like the Recon Mark II, they recalled the version with compatibility issues and relaunched it. It just doesn't seem like they're doing stuff like that anymore. It looks like the only magazines that are gonna work are the more modern magazines. The other downside that maybe I'm being a little bit too critical for a $35 blaster is the lack of rechargeable battery. Sure, you can rewire it, and I'm sure some people have already done that, and plenty more will, but we've been seeing so many rechargeable batteries from Nerf recently, I was kind of expecting this one to have it. Or maybe don't even include the rechargeable battery, but make it compatible, like what they did with the Nemesis, Chaos, and Hera. Those blasters all came with a battery tray that took D or C batteries, but you could pull out the tray and swap it with a 7.4 volt Rival rechargeable battery that went for around $25 to $30. That battery not only meant that you didn't have to keep going back and buying more alkalines, but it also gave you a boost in performance. The bog down that I'm talking about with this blaster would not have been an issue if it was compatible with the Nerf Rival rechargeable. This is a comparison for another video, but that gives the Nerf Rival Hera an edge when it comes to semi-automatic Rival. But the Hera was $60, this is a $35 blaster. Again, maybe I'm being too critical, and I would love to hear your take on this discussion. But overall, while this blaster does have some issues, it is certainly pretty okay, and offers some attributes and features that are going to be very desirable for a lot of people. So thank you very much for watching. I will have the blaster's link in my description if you're interested. Have a good one, subscribe for more, and happy blasting.